Welcome back, guys, to King Josiah TV, where this channel was created to educate, promote the kingdom of Jesus Christ in this world as an ambassador. I'm your host, Josiah. And before we get started, guys, I want you to do me a real quick favor. Go ahead, and if you're listening on YouTube, go and hit that subscribe button. And if you're listening audibly on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, go ahead and give me that follow button. Let's get into it, guys.
Watch giants fall like Goliath. David, I dance. This ain't no tick-tock. God told me that my steps was ordered. Walking in flip-flops. Chris Rock, how they laughed at me.
One of the most biggest things going on today, Kamala Harris. We're going to talk about, is Kamala Harris truly the party that a Christian believer should be following in? Is Kamala Harris the one that you should be following after? Is Kamala Harris the one that is going to uphold biblical standards? But I'm going to let Bishop Wooden explain this.
Witness. Don't you let them. Because you see, these people have an agenda. And their agenda, one of the things is to get rid of the church. To get rid of the church. To have abortion on demand. To the promotion of all things LGBTQ. You know, Kamala Harris, she's running for the vice presidency. I call her Miss Lock Up a Brother, for when she was the AG in California, a Negro knew, a black man knew that he was dead in the water. He was dead in the water. Matter of fact, you don't need a trial. You might well go into jail if you appear before her, because she took pride in locking up black folk. And now all of a sudden she's trying to be sister girl. I'm telling you, check out her record. She locked us up left and right. Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Yes, she did. Yes, you did, Kamala, however I should pronounce it. You did. And now we're supposed to forget all that stuff. And she boasted in California that she was one of the first. I got the tape cued, but my time's up to date. One of the first I showed you Thursday night to perform a same-sex marriage. Y'all want to see it? You want to see it? Let it rip.
Let the rings exchanged and the vows declared symbolize your commitment, sincerity, and affection.
Yeah.
And may your love never falter.
May your love never falter.
By virtue of the power and authority vested in me by the state of California, I now declare you spouses for life.
Cut. Now that is who's supposed to deliver us. Now, are you crazy? I like what Maya Angelou says. She said, when the people show you who they are, believe them. That's Kamala. And let me tell you, anybody who's trying to turn America into Sodom and Gomorrah is not good for the nation. She's not good for the state. And she ain't good for black folk. We need husbands and wives. We need fathers. We need mothers. Men born male, women born female. We need real people.
There's so much there that Bishop Wooden said that's like so on point. And this is something that I've been trying to tell people, trying to inform individuals on. I mean, how are you to call yourself a believer and you want to follow after a woman that wants to or that performed the first same-sex marriage? I mean, you could go down her bills, and guys, we're going to explain it because I'm just not going to read things off. But I mean, there's so many things about her that are anti-biblical, from the fact that her tenure as a vice president, has been about abortion and LGBTQ rights and pushing drugs to our kids to be able to change them, to be able to transition. Guys, you could just go down the list. There's different things that she's been involved in, again, that are anti-biblical. And even on a sense of being an African American in America, I mean, somebody like he just said, that's has locked up so many black people she's not even black. And I'm not even getting to that. I could show her birth certificate, guys. She's Indian and she's Jamaican. So many people have tried to debate me on that. She's not African. I don't know if you guys been around too much, but if you go to talk to any Jamaican or Haitian and call them an African, they'll probably hit you with a left hook. So she's this her whole career, and people try to say that it's racist to say that, but it's true. She's not black. She's not experienced a black experience. The most she's done is gone to HBCU. Outside of that, she's played Indian and white her entire life. I mean, you guys, it takes a quick Google search to find a lot of these things out. But guys, I don't want to go on my own rhetoric. I want to show you guys again some of her things that she's a part of, and some of the legislation and policies. I'm a big person. It's all about legislation and policies. It's not about who you like, who you don't like. And I'm not telling you guys who you should or shouldn't go for. But as a believer, this woman stands for nothing that we stand for as believers. So I'm going to pull up initially pretty much talking about what I mentioned about transitioning children. And how she's trying to push us. Kamala Harris expected to expand Biden's child gender transition agenda if elected. Now, this can affect parents that if their child comes home and their child is 10 years old and goes, hey, I want to be a girl, and he's a boy. If they tell him no, laws like this will allow them to take that child out of that loving parent's home that are trying to correct their kid, and not allow them to make decisions at an age where they're not even old enough to drink or drive, to change their entire sex and identity in this world. So we're going to read a little bit on this. Gender and ideology activists expect Vice President Kamala Harris to expand on Biden's administration child gender transition agenda if elected president in November. After President Joe Biden dropped out of the presidential race on Sunday, gay and transgender activist groups and outlets quickly endorsed Harris for president. They know who their person is. They know who their person is. Many of groups touted Harris and passed as a prosecutor in San Francisco, one of the nation's foremost gay cities. A Harris administration would not only uphold but also expand on projections of transgender and Americans establishing by Biden administration. Advocates of the transgender equality said in this statement endorsing Harris for president, her leadership promises to fortify and enhance the efforts to address and meet the needs of transgender people, endorsing continued progress in our nation's history and civil rights. The Human Rights Campaign and is the largest and most powerful gay lobby, also threw their support behind Harris, saying she would be a trusted activist for their priorities in office. The White House has been on top of national advocate for irreversible gender transition procedures, drugs for children in the country. Remember, I told you guys about, despite the fact that there is little evidence the interventions work, and are growing the amount of evidence that they are actually harmful. There's just, like I said, guys, there's just too much there for me. And I want to read a little bit about, again, other things. Again, I believe in being informed before you vote. You should be informed. You shouldn't vote based off of who you like or who you don't like. And I believe if you pull up all the policies and if you pull up the things that she stands for, these things are anti-biblical. So I got some scriptures and as well some things that she stands for. So the first thing I want to talk about, to me, was one of the biggest things to me that showed that in her tenure as a governor, she showed, and as a vice president, she's shown her hostility towards the faith. And she's actually somebody that's going to push up against Christianity. And if you're for the LGBTQ community, you're as well pushing up against Christianity. That's one of the biggest entities that's trying to push Christians down. But anyways, without further ado, let me see here. Senator Harris, she sponsored the No Harm Act, which would have eliminated the application of Religious Freedom and Registration Act of the RFRA. The introduction of legislation would have prevented appeals to the RFRA by religious individuals in stances including appealing anti-discrimination legislation, which shows her hostility towards God and his views. Again, that would have prevented religious leaders and religious entities from involving themselves in government or involving themselves in lawmaking in their individual states. Again, the devil never outright comes out and does something. He does things sneakily. And people say, oh, and the Christians are just being overly trying to fearmonger people and this and this and this. No, the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And taking out God's people and taking out God's way of doing things, the way God wants us to live life, is on his first agenda. The next thing that we have to talk about, again, is abortion. Again, as I told you guys earlier, abortion has been the focal point of her tenure as a vice president. We just read in that other article, guys. They view her as a gay activist. So some verses that we want to talk about. Exodus, guys, states that in Exodus 20 and 13, there are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him: haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood. And then Proverbs 6 and 16. That was Proverbs 6 and 16. I'm sorry, I read that wrong. That was Proverbs 6 and 16. Guys, all the individuals, the souls that are aborted. She's actually voted. I'm sorry not to get off track, but she's stood up for abortion at up to 9 weeks. That's a full-blown child. Once they come out of the womb, this woman does not care about life. God cares about all life. It doesn't matter at what stage. As soon as that egg meets fertilization, even scientifically, that is a child. That is a person. And she's okay with dispersing of that, which shows again her hostility towards God and hostility towards God's ways. Then next, I want to talk about the next thing that I want to talk about pertaining to Kamala Harris is, let me see here, is another verse pertaining to when she's for these children changing their sex. God created man in his own image, and the image of God was created him, male and female, and created them. So God made no mistakes when he created our little children. He made no mistakes when he created me or you. So any type of legislation, any type of lawmaker, any type of president that's trying to push and peddle things like this to our children is disgusting to me. And so how can you sit back and agree with this? How can you sit back and go with this? Guys, I mean, the only thing that, I mean, honestly, I can majority find in her that I could really be like, oh yeah, I really did like her pertaining to her laws pertaining to, I'm kind of back and forth on the gun laws, as well as pertaining to, she is trying to take away the student loan and the debts. That, I mean, I know plenty of people that student loans and debts affect that I can go with, but then it's like every time there's something small that you can say you can like about her, she flips it. And even in that same context, it's the legislation about our kids, teaching them same-sex education as young kids. She's pushing for that. She's pushing back on the family unit. And so I'm just, guys, I got so many notes here. I just wanted to go over some of this with you guys. So the last part that I'm going to go over here is Kamala Harris and marriage. Kamala Harris in 2010, she refused to defend the constitutional amendment passed by the California voters, which restricted marriage to only those between a man and a woman. Therefore, a man, and this is the verse, guys, that lines up with this. I'm going to give you verses for all this. Therefore, a man shall leave his father and his mother and hold fast to his wife, and they shall become one flesh. 2 men can't be married. 2 women can't be married. It's not a marriage. Man can't rewrite what God has put together. God's laws, God's statutes do not change just because the world has evolved. And to me, again, just as Pastor Wooden said, I mean, I'm so glad. I wish there was more ministers that would stand up and speak the truth. They're so silent. They don't want to talk. They keep their mouth shut. And Pastor Wooden, I mean, I got to give it to him. I mean, this dude has stood flat-footed, and there's plenty of other videos you can look up on him where he's talking directly about this, guys. I'm not here to vote for Trump, but I'm telling you that if you are a believer and you're voting for Kamala Harris, please do your due diligence of really looking into it. There's so many things biblically that she's done over the course of her entire career that are anti-biblical. There's so many things, and I just went over a few in this video. It takes a quick Google search. It takes a quick looking up her stances. Stay off the CNN sites. Stay off the social media blog sites finding your political information, guys. Please go ahead and give me a subscribe. Smash that subscribe button right below. And again, as I always say, if you're listening audibly on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, go ahead and give me that follow button. Again, I will see you guys next week.
But my salvation on me like it's a helmet. The way you to sin is death, for send you to hell quick. Wanted to be all about me, God, I was selfish. I was rebellious, but you